Hey guys, Nocturne here, and this is part 2 of Granada. We're in stage 6 now, and this is the most difficult stage in the game for me, because you only have one target, but you have a lot of these really powerful enemies that you should really use charge shots on in order to get rid of them, and they are relentless. And it feels like they're infinite, but they're not. You can eventually destroy all of them, it just takes a lot of time. This isn't a game for, like, very fast gameplay. This is one where you really have to go slow and take your time. So, this is part 2, this is the final part. The game only has 9 levels. But they really ramp up the difficulty as time goes on. These guys, there's lots of cover, so you can actually kind of lure them around corners and stuff, because they can only fire straight ahead. They can't actually turn their turret around to attack you. And then I was hearing noises, so I just started shooting off screen, which, like I said in part 1, is a thing you can do. There we go, 2 lives left. And I just start taking damage here because I'm not really. They're just coming at me from all sides. And there's only one target in this level, the boss, so if you really wanted to, you don't have to fight anything, but I really wouldn't recommend that because you would have them hounding you and shooting at you constantly. Go ahead and move around there. And if you want to, for points, there's a whole other side that you can do that has the same layout with the same tanks and cannons and stuff, but I mean, you don't get anything for points in this game. Like, you don't get extra continues or extra lives or anything like that. So once you blow this gate up, you're in the inner part, and this leads up to where the boss is. There's 2 paths again, like before, and this is where I start really using the reflector to take out these enemies here. And as you can see, they're kind of finicky. Sometimes it's difficult to get them to shoot in the direction you want. And sometimes they also get in the way when you're trying to get at something straight in front of you. So here, that's a good example of the reflector being useful. And like I said before, if you hit a reflector with a charge shot, it just starts shooting off in random directions. So that can help sometimes. And then here's where they have 3 cannons in a row, and you have to destroy them in order to move on, because they're blocking the path you need. So you gotta get creative with the angles here. But I'm trying to see if I can get the reflector down in there, but I can't. And there, I took a shot right there. And here's where I just start. The reflector luckily stays there, so I'm able to use it. And then I just do the same thing for the other side. Except when it gets hung up on a wall like that. Yeah, eventually I just duck out and do it on my own. Because the reflector can also block shots for you, but it's difficult because it's always kind of like squirming around. It never really stays still. And then here's where I'm just taking my time because I only have a couple lives left and I don't want to start the level over again. Because like I said, you get those 3 continues and then that's it. You have to start all the way back at level 1. I never owned this game as a kid, but I borrowed it a lot from my cousin who also had a Genesis. He had a Genesis before I did, so I would play it over his house at first, and then when I finally got one for Christmas, I started borrowing it. But like I said, I never really owned it myself. So now I'm just trying to sneak in the corner, trying to use the reflector, trying to do what I can to stay out of their fire. Which works for the most part. And I just turn around, go to the other side. Of course you get hung up in a wall and get hit, but hey, it happens sometimes. There you go, and now you can see there's 2 more. I thought there were 6 here, but there's actually 4. And I'm just moving in and out in order to get them, because I'm getting them from off screen. There we go. And now it's time for the boss, which is a very large craft that has about 4 different sections you need to destroy. It starts together, then one part detaches, and it goes off on its own. And as you can see, there's no real, like, pattern or anything. They just swing around side to side erratically. And if you wait too long, they'll reattach to the ship again. You'll have to start over. And this is where I just start using charge shots, because I want to get this done quick. Because I only have a couple lives left. Because this is part 3. And now it starts having these mobile cannons that fire around. And then on the last part it starts shooting these cluster bombs that fire off different little particles at you like that try to chase you. And this is where I'm on my last life. And I'm just saying to myself, please, let me kill this thing. I don't want to have to start the entire level over again. And there we go. Luckily 3 hits from death. I hit it with the last charge shot and kill it. Now this level, I just take a death. Because as you can see, I've got no lives, like 3 hits. And I knew I wasn't going to get through the level. So I just take a game over. And it kicks you back to the title screen, and then you see continue 3, and you start right at the level with a brand new full shield and 6 lives. This level kind of looks like an oil field, which is funny because there's a lot of fire enemies here, and your targets are those orange balls that are bouncing around up there shooting at you. And these ones, they charge right at you. But a lot of times they get hung up on walls like that. I'm trying to, get one to come around, but then I just say, forget it. And I move on. And using the radar, you can always tell, when one is nearby. And sometimes, if you get them on the other side like that, you can hit them. And then here I try to use this to get at it, but it doesn't quite reach. Because the more you can eliminate from that side, the easier it is later. I just head up. The main enemies in this level are those flamethrowers and those turrets that shoot in all directions. In the Sharp 68,000 version, this level doesn't exist. There's a little bonus stage there instead, but they added this level for the Genesis version. So even though they ported it, they did add some stuff to it. And there's this one. So, as you can see, the number of targets in each level will vary wildly. Like one of them had 22, this one had 10 or so. the stage 2 only had like 9, and that's just how it is. I'm gonna hit that. And there's that little bridge that leads over to the second half of the level, but as you can see, I got one of them right here. So I try to destroy it before going over there. Because a lot of the enemies in the game, there is a limited amount of them. Like, you can conceivably destroy every single enemy in a level, and they won't show up anymore. Now I got rid of a couple more there before crossing over. And as you can see, they just fly around you in a huge circle. They can also shoot a long cluster of like fireballs at you. And this I've never had happen before. Somehow it got hung up on the outside wall, which you can't actually get to. So I was like panicking a little bit, because I was saying to myself, well shit, what do I do now? If I can't destroy it, then I'm probably not going to be able to beat the level. And I hoped I wouldn't have to just start all over from the beginning again. So I try to hit it, and it doesn't quite work. So eventually I say I'll just come back to it later. And I just go for the rest of the level, just to see what happens. And if you look on the radar, you'll see it suddenly unhook itself from that area and just start coming at me. So I was able to get it. And I'm just heading down here. Get rid of the last couple targets. Yeah, and these are the ones that I was looking at the beginning of the level, trying to get them from the other side. And you see there's a lot of these flamethrower enemies here. And there's an example of one of them throwing its like outside to make a trail of flames come at you. Those boxes there, if you blow them open, they release about 10 or 12 of these little spike things that come straight at you, and they just start ramming your ship, your tank, so it's best to try to leave them alone. So that's all the targets, and I just gotta head for the boss. After this part, I'm going to post a part where I talk about the manual a little bit. It's going to be a bonus video. It's not going to be a part of the playthrough, because the manual is really where all the story is. But the story is like, it's very ridiculous. You're fighting like a private military company or something like that. It's just one of those things where it's like, you know, we got to write something up quick. So here's the story. Okay, here's the boss. It's got 2 phases. For the first one, it's going to fire these shots at you that are going to bounce around. And you have to destroy all of these little reflector things first. And it tries to shoot the shots so they home in on you, but it will also opt to bounce them off a reflector if it's an easier way to hit you. And then once those are destroyed, it's the second phase, where it does the same pattern. It shoots those bombs, fires off a spread, and then opens up and does that. And when it opens up is the only time you can actually hit it. And you're better off using charged shots for this. And there you go. Only 2 levels left. Okay, this level here is just a big volcanic area. And the lava doesn't kill you instantly, but you do take damage for like every second that you're in it. So you gotta use those bridges in order to get through the level. And those large machines there, those are the targets for this area. There's also cannons that are targets as well, but your main targets are those. There's those things, machines there. But the cannons that are targets also count towards the total as well. And these enemies that are firing off those orange spikes, the spikes cause you damage twice because they stick in you and then they explode a few seconds later. So you're going to want to dodge those. Okay, and there you go. It's another one down. You're going to mainly use these bridges in order to get from place to place. Because like I said before, the lava causes damage. And it's a good thing that they do have the radar there, because it really helps out. Set up here. There's another one. And now you see those hopping enemies that chase after you. They're able to go on lava. And here I try to get the reflector to go in there, and it takes a little bit of finagling, but it finally does. Just so I'm not rushing in there. I'm trying to conserve health. There you go. Those. I'll just come in here. And you gotta hit one of the sides there. If you hit it in the center, it won't take damage like you saw. And then once you're finished with all the targets, you have to go back in the middle where the boss will have suddenly spawned into being. Then I'm trying to use the reflector again. And then I just kind of poke out and go back in. Although it's not working too well because those posts are in the way. So I just take a more direct approach. Those things that are being fired out from that machine, they don't shoot at you. It just generates a lot of them in a short amount of time. And there we go. Now I just gotta get to the boss. So just head back to the center. And the boss is another two-phase one. First is this giant pyramid that's just constantly firing off those orange spikes. So any hit you take from those, it's going to cost 2 points of your shield. And this is a case where the reflector is actually getting in my way. But you can angle yourself in, so that way you can damage it, but it won't be able to touch you with its shots. And then after that, you'll have to take care of phase 2. You just gotta go through and get all 4 sides. As you can see, I'm just trying to sneak in there so I don't take any damage myself. There you go, one side left. And of course, when I don't need the reflector, that's when it sticks around the most. And there we go. Once the 4 sides are destroyed, you gotta hit the center, and then you'll be able to start phase 2. Which is a giant worm centipede thing that constantly bullies you because it's just getting right in your face and pushing you around. And you have to hit it in the backside. And it's best to go with charge shots because one charge shot will take out one segment. And you have to destroy it segment by segment in order to kill it. But as you can see, it just kind of pushes into you and bullies you, shoves you around. And if it's coming straight at you, you can use your regular shot to make it go turn around, but you won't cause any damage to it. You have to hit it from behind. Okay, and that's level 8. The level here is the last level. And I took a game over here because of certain enemies that show up later. This level, they just throw everything they can at you. You'll be taking damage a lot. And it's another elevated level, so if you get pushed off the sides, you'll fall just like that. And those white things that you saw on the screen earlier, these right here, if any one of them touches you, it just shoves you backwards really far, just like that. So you're going to want to avoid those. There's only 6 targets in this level. The first one is this thing right here. And then the other ones are these. They kind of look like the things that were in level 3. Except with longer prongs on the end. And they just shoot at you. And these little bastards right here, this is the reason why I took a game over the first time I went through the level. Because they don't attack you, they'll just shove you towards this edge and try to push you over, which is an automatic loss of life. And I'm inching forward right here because I'm getting to the first of the other targets. This thing. And it just keeps shooting a whole bunch of stuff at you. You have to destroy the 4 prongs first, and then you can hit the center. The red projectiles can be destroyed, but the yellow ones can't. And it's not that they're difficult, it's just there's a lot of other stuff going on as well. Mainly these things. These things are the worst. Like, they're literally like the 8th level boss. They just bully you off the edge. And then here's another one. I mean, look at all this. I mean, I suppose if I was better, I could weave through the bullets, but it ain't happening. And I actually hit a sound glitch. Apparently I died too fast while the low health warning was being sounded. So now the low health warning is going to be sounded throughout this entire life until I blow up again. So I'll probably lower this part a little, so you're not constantly hearing that. And as you can see, there's little pits everywhere. There's little bridges, little pits, and a ton of those guys who just shove you around. And then these gates, if they close on you, it causes damage. And it also keeps you trapped there, so you take multiple hits trying to get out. When you're on easy, you have plenty of time, so you really don't have to worry about that. And this is the hardest part of the level right here, because you gotta fight 2 of these things, and there's just pits everywhere. So what I do is I activate one, destroy it, and then activate the other. Luckily, you have to get really close to them in order to get them started. So there's one, and now here's the other. And once again, any of those pits you fall into, you lose a life instantly. So there we go. Now all that's left is getting to the final boss. So just sort of inch my way over and then start taking these bridges here. So you just move on through. I'm taking my time in case any of those little assholes that shove you around show up. And like I said, if you take enemies out from far away, they don't show up again later. At least as far as I know. From what I've seen anyway, the enemies are like, there's a finite number of them. And I'm heading over looking for that power-up that I saw earlier in the level, the homing missile one. And I'm pretty sure it's down here and to the left. Yep, there it is. So now it's just pretty much a straight shot up to the boss. And I managed to find another one. The last boss is pretty difficult. It has 3 different phases, and it just causes a lot of damage. So just head on up through these broken bridges here. There's really only one way to go, so it's not like you can really get lost. And then once you get to here, you're pretty much there. And this is the final boss. The first thing you need to do is destroy these turrets that are flying around. Then next you have to hit it in the those big shoulder pauldrons that are up there. It fires those elbow shots and those homing balls at you. And as you can see, I'm just taking damage like crazy. Things get a little dicey around here. I was wondering if I was gonna have to cut again because of getting another game over, but I managed to make it. There you go, the hands are gone. Now you gotta hit it in the shoulders. So you gotta hit the hands first, sorry. And it fires the same pattern. It does a spread shot on the sides, in the middle, one on the sides, and then fires those missiles. And for the last part, it just fires these fireballs at you. And you have to be careful because if the flame trail is still on the screen and you go into it, you'll take damage. Which is why I'm taking so much damage even though I'm dodging the fireballs. And that's it. That's Granada. Beaten on easy with no cheats. Stage 9 cleared, and here's your ending. Yep, and there he is. That's the guy who was piloting the tank the entire time. So you can just watch the staff roll here. There's a little Easter egg you can do at the end that I'll show. But yeah, that was Granada. It's a fun game. It gets really challenging on the higher difficulties. I mean, it's hard enough for me on easy, let alone the other ones. Which goes up to normal, hard, and mania. That's a game. This game was made by Wolf Team. They publish a lot of really good games for the Saturn. And once it says presented by Wolf Team, if you hold down A, B, and C on the controller and just wait a little bit, you make the pilot just eat shit right in front of everybody. Well, that's the game. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night.